I'd love to hear, as we enter year two, as you've got a portfolio that is mostly allocated, what concerns you the most? Because we now find ourselves in a position of not having the dry powder to make huge bets on swings. Now, I'm thinking about your big bets that you made on Amazon and Meta. Ultimately, turned out to be positive for the portfolio, but at the time were challenging because they both sold off right after putting that capital to work. So now that you find yourself with less cash on the table to make those big swings, what worries you going into the second year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say we've talked about overall valuation. Stocks remain kind of near historically high levels. I do think we'll continue looking at a lot of small cap opportunities. Our next guest on the show, I'm actually filming it later today. We're going to have that drop, I believe, next week. It specializes in looking for a lot of small cap opportunities. So I would expect, we might have 10 plus ideas on that show. It'll probably factor into our next buys. The economy in general is fairly troubling, especially given these valuations. We've talked about that AI spending has outpaced consumer spending, which is a huge flip for the U.S. economy as a whole. I think for the market to continue seeing relatively strong returns through 2027, we're going to need to see some acceleration, or I should say 2026. We're going to need to see some consumer spending because, this AI story alone isn't going to be enough to drive things. The one thing I would say, though, I'm not as concerned. A lot of people would expect me to maybe be more concerned about a slowdown in hyperscaler spending because of the stats we talked about today and the need for a refresh in Blackwell, and also just the next phase of AI and how hungry it is for, far more tokens. When you look at going from a query to actually building out these systems, I think the demand is going to stay relatively robust from the hyperscalers and spending on these data centers. So I'm not as concerned about some sudden cliff in any of this data center spending.